Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so Jerriod, it's so great to have you here, and this book is gorgeous. I can't wait to hear you read from it. Let's just start off with a few poems, and then I want to ask you some questions. Super.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for coming out. This is exciting. The first book. We're going to read a few poems, and we'll start talking. What deer season means to me. In the house, there were always two white deep freezers packed pretty decent with red meat. Deer season, the hunters and the deer would satisfy rent in season by meat, if not by cash. It was May, I was 15, and we smelled 15 or so throughout the warm insides of the manhandled school bus. When Pops steers quick and clear to dodge the deer, and Charlene yells, I didn't even know it was deer season. As if deer only lived so they could be killed during deer season. What's a deer outside of deer season, except a reason for deer season? Missing person. Last time home, I saw a pair of shoes tucked into a corner, and it looked as if they hadn't been moved since he was here. The dust on them sacred, and still, when I'm home, my mind labors in the dust. It's been 6 years, but I say it hasn't happened. Though the day persists, he's still tucked into a cloud, tucked into a tree, in the back of a long black car, and my throat won't let my heart through, no matter how flat my epiglottis falls. All about the day breaking is clean, so why this heart? A nightmare in my wake. A black silk blend pressed smooth, upholstering silent emotion, boldly not a dent on it. We dare name this night with the sun out high, hanging by his hands, where the room was too small to be holding so much ache. Our world's now captured by a piece of forest carved tightly. Hinges now let us in or shut us out, but they failed to shut him in. A tree uprooted, the one I fell from. And I'm the only one to find him showing up in my day. Meetings, business trips scattered him, and I knew he'd be back, but not back so soon or in this form. And the way I am nervous about it all, if I am losing it, and if he's gone, how is he here with me? The dining room table, an altar where we open all bodies, either give or take, how his form sits in cheer, naked torso, and you are to act as if his generous breasts aren't private parts. I don't see how I see what I'm seeing. My eyes shaping a silhouette of the man who raised me as the sun raises all of our sleepy shadows. What gives when two realms refuse to budge and won't make that sway completely to either world? Imagination is a long, worn leather belt spread around my only hope. This yearning for Pops to adjourn a meeting he's not in. Get home to build dinner around venison, a staple holding us full. The dates leading up I never get wrong. Their quick succession still stings. It seems I'm always in a reality I shouldn't be in. Somehow our home preserves certain fingerprints. I map them and become bored with the maps of this world. I would abandon one rim for another when I watch him swing into the driveway and catch his breath from the day before exiting the vehicle. I watch him honk the horn before he's honking it. Passes me a crisp $50 bill because I'm there. Hands me baskets of new pecans and muscadines we'll use. I hear him telling me how I'm trying to split the log against the grain and how that'll wear me out the same way lying will. The same way alcohol will my liver, and how not cleaning the yard will eat away at the lawnmower's blades. I got a thing for fumbling through couplets. I hear him asking, have I talked to mama, and he knows I have, and what I'm about to say, how I'm knocking on the window of this other realm, begging to sing my confusion until he understands me. I'm 1,154 miles from home, farther from him, and still we continue the secret of running into each other. catching. Church begins in the mouth as a hook I cannot soothe and never saw coming. Beyond this watery realm, muddy and murder-ridden, baiting a ritual, pierced and laid against inquisitive steel, a fetching of the hungry, gathering of predators to feast of the one we know loses. The one I know wins knows the insides of the one who loses. The stovetop mural is a grease-splattered pool of the ones who've gone before the one who loses. Baptized by its crackle and kiss, washing clean the predatory soul of the one who feels it. I am elegant gloved for serving the one from the muddy world of honeysuckle-laden levees and larger breeds of itself. Swimmer of lakes and rivers, gray and blue sliver of steel, capturing me blind in sight of worm and cricket, flickering past just beneath the window of the surface of the river, where the spirit breaks its invited calm, Holy Ghost shaking off the mud and wet of the river, backward dive into the thick boil of June, and hunger is the meal we both swallow. All the way down to the bone, its jut and prick against throat. The pull the teeth give to the skeleton is a level of wanting I dare deny. In the midst of my shout and needy heave for what sits gracefully calm inside the bones.
This book is so, such a beautiful, full portrait of community and place. And I was thinking about these poems that are so, feel like so Mississippi. And you have been away for a long time. What was that like to be writing about this place when you're far away?
The short answer is lonely. But exciting, I think, is probably a better word. And I say exciting because I think having moved away when I did, I think for the last maybe 20 years I've spent the summers here, probably 17 or 18 or 20. And so I always sort of look forward to getting back here in the summer. And I used to tell my friends, when I go to Mississippi, I go with empty bags. So that when I go back to where I came from to get to Mississippi, I can take back as much as I can with me. And, not taking back really tangible things, but I'm taking back memories, I'm taking back the language that I hear from people, I'm taking back, recipes, scents, and the smell of muscadine as concept too. And so I feel like these poems could only have happened for me after having created or had some distance from the place. A lot of times you're too close to a thing to see it fully. And then when you back out and move away from it, it offers a different context. You get a different sort of perspective of things. And even, the way you function inside of the place. So a lot of times you end up taking the culture of things with you as a way to survive the loneliness that I mentioned at first. So I think it's exciting.
So there's so many people in these poems, and there are these beautiful elegies for your father, which is like you read one of those, and then there's just a bunch of kids and uncles and other relatives. What is how do you terms of like, I don't know, what do you feel like is your sort of way in to do that, or your responsibility towards that?
I think I do feel a responsibility to write about the people I'm writing about. And I think part of it probably hinges on the way we embody language here in the South, especially Black people. You know, I've got uncles who, because work needed to work and not finish high school, or not go to college. And, you know, they're thriving, living full lives with families. And, you know, they've done it with the language that they had. Not that, you know, different literacies, you know, aren't all valued, but I think for the purpose of these poems and the way I think about poems, I think that sort of, I don't know, I don't want to say, I don't know, I think that's what I'm trying to lift, is the language of these people, and the lives that they live. And you know, sometimes they come to the poem with just a name. Sometimes I just want the name because of the sound of the name in the poem, the way the names offer poems texture. You know, depending on the name. You know, some names are more flowery than others, or you know, some names just sound better. But also like my, you know, relation to these people and what they sort of mean to me and the communities that they were a part of. I think all of that probably plays into this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about Charlene and Deer Season. Like, I mean, it's so whether that's her real name or not, like the internal rhyme is working great, you know?
Yeah, so doing that,
Yeah,
Charlene,
it's just like so musical. This book has so many modes. So like some of your poems, I think are like just really sonically driven. Some of them feel a little more like experimental. Some of them are real straightforward, but they're all just controlled by that music. And I wondered if you could talk a little bit about just the range of modes that you work in, because it is pretty broad, and you're so good at all of them. And so how do you also like think about all those different types of poems fitting into a book together? How did you approach that?
Some of the poems in the book kind of work as auditory processing exercises. I focused on the Black Southern vowel or the Southern vowel at large. And a lot of times writing, so I got tired of writing elegies. I got tired of writing about dead people. I got tired of writing sad poems. And I was like, I'm going to do something fun. And I still ended up writing about dead people and sad poems for some of them. But you know, I was also thinking about the reader and the reader of relief at the same time. I'm trying to give myself a release. But I think the experiment is sort of rooted in this desire to democratize language or democratize the canon. We think about what we think about when we hear the word canon. And so it's fun. I think when I'm working in that mode where I'm focused on the sonically driven poems for a while, it fuels me and gives
taking those different types of poems and ordering this book, like, are you thinking about, like, what poems go next to each other, and how do you manage the back and forth at those different moments?
I wanted it to feel like, I wanted the read of the book to feel like things were falling apart slowly at the beginning, but much faster toward the end. When I say falling apart, I mean language kind of falling apart and becoming more playful, more experimental, and less deer season, less missing person, more some of these other poems. And I knew I didn't want all of one type of poem to be in one section, because I don't know, when I've read books that sort of follow that model, and I just didn't feel like these poems would. So I felt like they would get lost, especially the sonic driven ones. I feel like they would get lost if they were all clumped together, as opposed to the contrast that's offered when you put some of those sonically driven poems next to a sonic or something more traditional perspective.
Yeah. So I want to ask you to read some of your palindrome poems, and just to give y'all a sense, if you haven't seen the book yet. So the poem that precedes what deer season means to me, which y'all just heard, is one of these. Can you read the nerve of that for us?
At readings, I've been sort of prefacing these palindromes by asking the audience to, we're used to listening to language to comprehend, to get some kind of meaning out of it, but with all the might you have in your body, I'm going to ask you to turn that off and try to soak in on the sonic qualities of the words that you use. The nerve of death. I read fly cheeks deriving by spreads for prime meringue. A bed by weeks reviving shy treads far trying to stay. For scared high shrieks and live and why said a frying lane. Spy dread sky reeks surviving our bread applying the thing. For shred lie reeks conniving lie red a crime for pain. The dead I keeps alive in my head are dying again. The dead I keeps alive in my head are dying again. For shred lie reaps conniving lie red a crime for pain. Spy dread sky reeks surviving our bread applying the thing. For scared how shrieks and live and why said a frying a man. A bed by weeks reviving shy treads far trying of stain. I read fly cheeks deriving by spreads for prime meringue.
So I want to talk about these palindrome poems and your method for constructing them. It's easier when you see it on the page, I think, but yeah, it's just they're like mirror poems. So the line in the middle of the poem gets repeated right next to each other, and then before that and after that, it's like a mirror. So how do these poems come about? And there's a number of these in the book, and they're all gorgeous. I love hearing that out loud. So talk to me about constructing that and what you're thinking about and what your method is.
I was reading palindromes, and this was the same semester I was doing my comp exams, and I had these images. And this project sort of started or these poems started as a way to make use of some of those phrases. So in The Nerve of Death, the first phrase was "the dead I keeps alive in my head are dying again." And so each of the vowels, each of the audible vowels that you hear in that sentence are the vowels that construct the words of the other sentences. And so I'm just rapping consonants next to a preset order of vowels. You can kind of think of them as rhyming sentences, but they don't all work that way, given the way Black folk talk. There's a lot of inconsistencies, but I found a lot of sort of room to play with slant rhyme, changing a single word. Sometimes I change one word in the line, and it affects the meaning. The second time around, you hear it, and it's, I don't know, the idea was to amplify the feeling that I felt by a phrase like "the dead I keeps alive in my head are dying." When you think about compounded grief and people close to you die in close succession and not having time to sort of grieve one before you have to start grieving another, before you have to start grieving another. And so it was a way to speak to that overwhelming feeling that wasn't always, I don't know, feeling lonely. Sometimes it was anger. Sometimes it's an intense feeling of love or appreciation. I think the palindromes, I think they range in the emotion that they carry.
Yeah. It's so they're not. I mean, you can't always track the grammar of each line real easily, but these poems are filled with just there's so much stuff in them and so many ideas in them that just putting them together with that center line does so much emotional work. It's really like such an experience that I feel like is echoing the experience of grief in this poem, and like it's I just really admire that. I was reading these. I'm gonna ask you to read one more, but my experience of reading them, I was like thinking about that center line, you know, where it meets itself, and then there are these ripples out, and it felt so much like, you know, like a, you know, throwing a pebble in a pond or earthquake or something. Like it churns things up, you know, and they get sort of like less predictable the further out they move. It's just it's like such a like it's not narrative, but it is like a recognizable human experience.
It feels like the palindrome is the form itself is offering this sort of echo, like quality that easily translates to ripples. And I think that's part of why I'm drawn to it, for that echo, like hearing the thing again, but in a different way or in a different order or context.
Yeah. Let's hear one that is like where the tone is maybe a little bit more celebratory. I mean, do you have one? I have recommendations. So, I mean, I'd love to hear Super Big.
Okay.
Yeah. Or All I Eat.
Call my peeps, my skills, call my creed, my bay, my drawl, heavy baths. Sprawl, dry creeks, dry quills, sprawl, dry feed, dry clay, dry small, petty lads. Tall, try peaks, try hills, tall, try breed, try way, try gall, ready calves. Ball by feast, by bills, ball by lead, by splay, by all sweaty halves. Crawl, why cheat, why steal, crawl, why speed, why stay, why stall, steady math. All I eat, I keep. All I need, I say I already have. All I eat, I feel. All I need, I pray I already have. Crawl, why cheat, why steal, crawl, why speed, why stay, why stall, steady math. Ball by feast, by bills, ball by lead, by splay, by all sweaty halves. Tall, try peaks, try heels, tall, try breed, try way, try gall, ready calves. Sprawl, dry creeks, dry quills, sprawl, dry feed, dry clay, dry small, petty labs. Call my peeps, my skills, call my creed, my bay, my drawl, heavy baths.
So one of the other things I wanted to talk to you about is also about language, but not so much sound. So like you've got poems in here. I mean, I'm thinking of the mistaken identity of some verbs, ode to a pronoun. Like you're actually talking about parts of speech, and I know you have a background, like you studied communication disorders, and there's a lot of like thinking about linguistics and sound in this book in a way that I think a lot of poets don't like have your particular background and like way of thinking about language. So how does that play into like how you hear, how you think about just like words and sounds and community and all that?
I feel like the thing is, having a background in communication disorders, I think, kind of prepared me to treat language like material, or like an object that I can manipulate, and play with, and experiment with. Like me and my brothers, when we were little, we used to have a lot of race cars and take the generators out and power other things, and then put them back in the car. So like taking things apart to put them back together, or even to understand how they work, is part of the practice at play here. I feel like in my future there might be a book where every poem is a rule of language that I exploit. Some rule of grammar that I intentionally break. And I think the intent there is to make right out of something wrong, or to make good out of something that is traditionally looked down upon, told it's the wrong way to say a thing. A lot of my teaching has been in the public schools as a teaching artist, and I see a lot of middle school and high school students, just struggling with the first draft because they're not confident enough in the language that they have. They feel like they have to have the language of some scholar to get started, and you don't. Like just get the thing down in whatever language you have, and you can go back and shape it later. And so taking it apart and breaking it down and playing with it like material, I think it's something that definitely came out of thinking about phonetics and articulation, language development, speech and hearing signs.
Does that, like, words as objects, does that ever get in the way of, like, trying
feels rich. Which feels like a good place to be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like when I talk about the emotion that I want some palindromes to carry, or that I think they carry, I think that's just it. It's the feeling that I have that I don't really have the language to express, or the language that I feel like expresses it the best. So I've got this bouquet of words that may paint this picture of emotion that I'm feeling, and maybe it'll come off. I think it's cool. But yeah, I hadn't thought about that as a point of friction, which is really
Can you read the mistaken identity of some verbs? Am I going to like the B sides? So these are like
no.
your go-tos.
No. These are all good ones. The mistaken identity of some verbs. Don't you love to open the face of new fruit? Don't you marvel at the bright light on fresh skin? Ain't you high on something somebody you love sells? I'm sorry. Ain't you high on something nobody you love sells? Ain't you trying to see where they keep the seeds? Ain't you hungrier than you care to admit it? Ain't you trying to sign some contract with power? Ain't you loose from its tree? Ain't you just full of a lot of ain't and promise? Ain't you hoping I stop saying ain't? Ain't you hoping I stop calling your name? Ain't your desire too old for the feast? Ain't you ever been beat? Ain't you ever been somebody's drum? Ain't that tree too far for you to reach? Ain't you gonna squirm? Ain't it missing from the news? Didn't it promise you it sing you that song until it died? Didn't you kill it? Ain't this a case of the mistaken identity of did? Didn't you take your eyes off the prize? Didn't you lose? Ain't you tired of thinking you won? Didn't nothing ever come and tell you to stop? Didn't you lick the juice thickening down your arm? Couldn't we have avoided this, given our past? Couldn't we get nobody to take notes? Couldn't you have heard it a little bit louder? Couldn't it have not smelt so fucking sweet, so new? Couldn't you hear the fists banging hard at the door?
Yeah, I love that poem and the way that it's positioned in the book. I mean, I think this is so beautifully as a book when you read it all the way through. So this is like just
or I think I'm using for like a large part of the violences in the book comes from the natural world, and I'm sort of using the natural world to depict or mirror these other acts of violence that happen more largely in society. You know, the deer season is about deer, but it ain't about. I've got a poem in here about wasps, because in the summer, what usually happens is we get a gang of wasp nests, and you have to either stay away from them or spray them down. And so, you know, they literally build their house onto your house and live off you. And will commit violence toward you in your house or on your property. You know, the way we see that mirrored, you know, in society with this police state that we live in, and all of these states across the world. But I think there's so many parallels between human life and animal life, especially instinctively sometimes, but not always favorably. You know, I think we're different for a reason, and it's just disappointing when we take on some of the most animalistic traits that we see on National Geographic, or I don't know, you might be at the park and see a hawk on top of a sport weapon, you know. I think that connection, the natural world, the animal world, and humans is the link I'm sort of trying to draw with a lot of the poems in this book. I think whenever you see the word pig or hog, it's not a pig. You know, it's pointing to other norms.
Okay, I guess I'd like to, take some questions from the audience and then maybe hear one or two more points.
Okay.
Somebody have questions for Jerriod?
What's your favorite way to start writing? Do you like writing on the computer or notebook or again?
Mumbling in the woods, alone. One, notebook second. Then, you know, once I got a good idea, it's just easier to edit it on the computer. But it usually always starts in my head or my mouth. I'll get it right up here, and not until it's right will I sort of put it to paper.
So does that start like with an image, a line, a rhythm, like an idea?
It could be any or all of those. An image, you know, if it's an idea, I have to write that down immediately because I'm gonna forget it. But an image I can mumble about, and I can sort of keep in my head till I get to some paper. Sometimes it's a word I see, or a misspelling, or a person's name, or a name of a road. There's some roads in here. Road names here are, you know, a lot of them where we are Native American names, and so sometimes that will be the entry point to a line or a thought or a poem.
Other questions?
I'm someone who have never been anywhere north or out of the country. So what was your experience like coming from the South and then traveling and living in North
in some ways, it was a relief because my mom's sister, my aunt Odessa, is in the crowd. Her husband, my uncle Mike. This is got to do with your question. And Miss Hayes and her daughter, my best Hayes, from the church that I go to right here. And if you spent any time in the South, you know how important it is to have lessons of the elders and folks who are responsible for you and support you. And so, a lot of times that comes with what some folks might call dated ways of being in the world. You might not feel like you can be your entire self around certain people. You feel more comfortable being this part of yourself around this group. But I think being outside of the South, a lot of the customs of the South, it felt liberating not to have to attend to. It's scary, especially when you go to places and not a lot of people look like you, or you're the only one. I think I experienced my first culture shock when I moved to Louisville, Kentucky, in '08. It was the first time I lived, I guess, on my own out of Mississippi, and I was the only black student in this audiology program at University of Louisville. I feel like there are a lot of things you learn about yourself being in a different place or culture that you might not have found out about yourself had you not left. And that's not to say that you shouldn't or can't return. I obviously have, and I'm happy about it. But I think those are some of the pluses and minuses.
Other questions?
Yes, you read those poems beautifully, and of course they're your own, but as a layperson, when I read your poems, is there a way for me to get that same appreciation for the words, especially in those, what do you call those poems?
The palindromes?
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like those are, like, sonically, I feel like, I guess for me, they're primarily pleasure in the way that anybody ever played Mad Cab, Taboo? Like, I love word games, and like just seeing, just looking at arrangements of words that would otherwise never be arranged together, and hearing them. I don't know, like aligning it with the vowel, the way rhyme ends up happening. The intent is for it to just be, to offer a pleasurable sensation to the ear, not for it to go past the coast, which is the major hearing organ. It actually kind of looks like a heart. But I think for a layperson who's looking at the text, I think even that can be fun when you look at it closely and sort of how I've sort of cut certain words off to mimic or to denote the way I'm saying it or the way it's said, like the way I don't know, mama, okay, boys and girls, the three words boys and girls. Sometimes when mom lot to take in if you're looking at it on the page. But yeah.
Do you want your readers to read these poems out loud?
I do. Yeah, I think that's part of the fun. I think that's part of the fun of the project because nobody's going to sound the same reading them because, well, maybe if you're from a place, but because they're so, I guess, catered to a voice, to a specific kind of type of voice. But it is fun. I've heard friends read some of these and they're from Michigan and New York or Kentucky and it sounds different every time. And it's a lot of fun because it's like it's not translatable that way. It doesn't go that way.
Yeah, there's so much themselves in like this place. There's a question there.
Oh. Do you still watch Animal Planet, or have you become a National Geographic guy?
I watch them both. Yeah, all of it. Our Planet, all the big cat docs, Shark Week, all of it.
Other questions?
You've kind of already answered this and given me an idea of what your answer is going to be, but do you have a theology when it comes to line breaks or step grouping certain words together in your poems?
It's usually breath. It's usually the pause. Sometimes, if I can arrange in jam lines that live on their own and match the breath, let's go. You don't need to do it a lot, but when it happens, it's sweet. But I think our privilege, the way I pause and breathe through the lines, that and the line's ability to sort of live on its own or connect in an interesting way to the previous or receiving
There's a poem in here that I was really struck by the lines, who can govern themselves or governance, which I think is doing the thing that you're just talking about really, really well. Can we hear that one?
Yeah. Who can govern themselves out of governance? If I could be somewhere I wasn't, I would be there. Or I would have already paid that place some cold and charitable visit. If you knew how wealthy I wasn't, you would run. I cannot remember what I was before I tried to become what I thought I could in light of the dark that swallowed me. The story of how I thought I had not been pure and had not been enough. How I was not there though I had been but was gone after what I did not know I did not need came. How do you fix that which the house has no tools to fix? Where is the resolve as bright as the wet face of a child, the sight of the rigid origin of the brick?
Do you accidentally memorize them, or do you do that like on purpose? Is that just happening?
I think it happens accidentally. Some of them I've tried to memorize some of the PowerPoints, and it's not working out so far. But I'm not done trying. I'm gonna memorize at least two, because that's just fun to be able to do. It feels good to have the poem in your body, like a part of you almost, because it gets to go wherever you go, whether you got paper or book or phone or not. Like I memorized a lot of. My first experience with poems was in 5th, 6th grade with Miss Irish Marie Leggett at Crenshaw Elementary, who had us memorize William Ernest Henley poems, aka guest poems. You know, we would, the class would memorize these poems and recite them at the function in the cafeteria at the school program. And so memorizing poems has always sort of been a part of like being able to just stand and be like that without anything in between you. But most of the time, that was late.
So, in elementary school, when you had to do that, you're like, oh yeah, this is my thing. I'm gonna be a poet now. Or how did that happen?
It wasn't that. I think I read it was the girl I was dating in hospital was reading Nikki Giovanni's Foods for All the Changes. And in that book, Nikki Giovanni was saying things that I didn't know people could say. You know, she was being all revolutionary and contrary. And I was like, this is fun. See if I can try my hand at this. And I mentioned that it's all I want to do.
Any other questions for Jerriod? Okay, can we end on just one more fun one? Can you read the street?
Hewlett Street, okay. Hewlett Street is actually named W.C. Franklin Street now, after the principal at the time that this poem was set. Mr. Franklin was the principal. And so Hewlett Street is given away, but it's set right in front of the elementary school that I went to. Hewlett Street. Stop sign to stop sign, the last bell leaks, sifting the day. To a tune through Hewlett Street. Wall of yellow buses, parking lot lit, diesel hanging in the air, stench like an empty noose. Tone for the fight picked by its losing. We were 3 blocks north of the creek, below the train tracks, close enough for rail car rumble to texture our afternoons. A horn to blow since we called it a song. Down the hall to the right, up on the boys' bathroom wall, hung a dingy white trough. We were reservoir dogs, bladder filled with piss from breakfast. Brian Morrell flashes a little green bag while we sported pole to pole, lean and lifts of penis till a son either end got pissed on. 100 meters men's burst barefoot on blacktop, the smoke smelled like sweat and disfigured Laffy Taffies. Us husky boys had to watch or wrestle. Coop was a magician, black tire melting itself into the asphalt. He could walk a bike from stop sign to stop sign, about 250 yards, grinning like a bitch. Front wheel airborne, spinning slow like a Ferris wheel. Coop invented that shit. We were innovators, gunpowder in a napkin walloped into the asphalt. The girls with strawberry Neptunes growing from their lips, glossy like the dope in Bear Parker's eyes. To those planets popped and flattened over their wide brown noses. Other girls fundraising their chocolates, pieces of themselves, songs melting from their mouths and colored ropes swinging overhead below quick feet. Other girls bleeding for the first time, oozing what they don't know or what they were afraid to show mama, so not to be punished for a thing they'd never seen. Every day, the lesson was to tear a perfect ring of styrofoam from the rim of the freeze cup. We were all divas or vampires constructed by a collage of after schoolhouse red, a kiss stenciled with her mother's lipstick, a fight fixed by a fist fixing to pierce the skin, and you're just 12 with a black eye staring in awe at the girl you'll never have. April Smith with the Jerry curl, shirt collar wet, lips thick as two swollen thumbs sideways, glistening electric red. Blowing strawberry Jupiters, walked like she had wheels bolted under her British nights. Attitude of the juice of a ginger root. Her skin and speech, chocolates fit for fundraising. Curing sweet teeth. And Jones is plunging in the courses of growing bones.
Thanks so much for sharing this book with us, and thank you all for coming.
Being